When Kwasi Kwarteng was sacked yesterday, Jeremy Hunt, a former Rishi Sunak supporter, was not the replacement that many expected Liz Truss to appoint. But speaking yesterday, the Prime Minister insisted that Hunt, who she called one of the most experienced and widely respected government ministers, was the right man to tackle one of the toughest in-trays of any new Chancellor has faced in decades. So I am joined now from Westminster by the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us here this morning.
Good morning, Anna.
Now, the government under Liz Truss has lost the confidence of the markets, hasn't it? It's seen people's mortgages costs shoot up. It's been forced into major U-turns on key economic policy and has had to sack the Chancellor after fewer than 40 days in the job. Why do you want to work with this government?
Because I want to do the right thing for the British people. It's a big honour to do the job that I've been asked to do by the Prime Minister. But I want to be honest with people. We have some very difficult decisions ahead. The last few weeks have been very tough, but the context, of course, is coming out of a pandemic and a cost of living crisis. And the thing that people want, the markets want, the country needs now is stability. No Chancellor can control the markets. But what I can do is show that we can pay for our tax and spending plans. And that is going to need some very difficult decisions on both spending and tax. But that is what I must do now, so that people who are worried about their mortgage costs going up, people who are worried about how they're going to get through winter with the cost of living crisis, people in the NHS who are worried about the pressures they're facing, can be reassured that the fundamental stability that they need from the government, they expect the government to provide, is there.
You say you want to restore stability, but the party and the country, actually, its reputation for economic competence has been trashed by the mini-budget, hasn't it? I mean, Kwasi Kwarteng has paid the price for that by losing his job. But can you rebuild that reputation when the architect of those proposals in the mini-budget is still in her job? Liz Truss is still Prime Minister.
Well, she's been Prime Minister for less than 5 weeks. What I would say about the mini-budget is
look at the chaos that it's caused.
Well, let's talk about the mini-budget. The most important element of it was the energy price guarantee. People's energy bills were heading for £6,500. This will keep the average one down at £2,500. That's very important to families up and down the country. That's staying. But there were mistakes. It was a mistake when we're going to be asking for difficult decisions across the board on tax and spending to cut the rate of tax paid by the very wealthiest. It was a mistake to fly blind and to do these forecasts without giving people the confidence of the Office for Budget Responsibility saying that the sums add up. And the Prime Minister's recognised that. That's why I'm here. And what we need now is for me to show Parliament and the markets that we can make our tax and spending plans add up. That's what I'm going to do. And I want to say this, Anna, if I may, we will have some very difficult decisions ahead. Spending will not rise by as much as people would like, and all government departments are going to have to find more efficiencies than they were planning to. And some taxes will not be cut as quickly as people want. Some taxes will go up. So it's going to be difficult. But as we take those difficult decisions, my priority, our values as a government, will be to protect families, businesses who are going through a very challenging time. We'll be thinking about the most vulnerable people. This is a compassionate, Conservative government. And the other thing is that we still maintain total fundamental confidence in the potential of the British economy. We have enormous amount we can do. We're the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world. But we've remained a strong economy because at difficult moments like this, we've been prepared to take tough decisions. And that's, I'm afraid, what we're going to have to do.
OK, and I'm going to explore those tough decisions and what it means for spending in a moment. But first of all, I want to get a sense of the direction that you're heading in, because the mini-budget has had its heart ripped out of it, hasn't it, after these reversals on corporation tax and the 45p tax rate. Many are saying that Trussonomics is dead. So what is next from you in terms of policy? How much of a departure will there be from Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng's vision?
Well, as I said, some of the things were mistakes, but the fundamental strategy behind it all, which is that we have to solve the growth paradox. If we want well-funded public services like the NHS and to keep taxes low and falling, then we have to increase our growth rate. That is absolutely right. And I also would like to be able to cut corporation tax. I want us to have the most competitive business taxes because that's the way that we'll help to grow the economy. But the way we did it didn't give people confidence. That's what we have to change. And that's my job in the next couple of weeks with the statement that will be coming out on the 31st of October.
Can the markets wait that long? They're clearly not satisfied at the moment. They think that the sums don't add up. They, no doubt, will want to see more details. And what will they be? Will that mean more reversals on the mini-budget? Will there be more U-turns?
Well, I'm being very straightforward. We're going to have to take some very tough decisions on both spending and tax. As I say, spending will not go up as much as people want, and there'll be more efficiencies to find, and we won't have the speed of tax cuts we're hoping for, and some taxes will have to go up. That's the reality of the very challenging situation we face. But remember, Anna, we've only heard one part of the equation. We're hearing now about some of the difficult decisions, but also there's enormous potential for growth with some of the other policies that we'll be announcing in the next few months. And when you see the package as a whole, what you will see is a vote of confidence in the British economy. This country that has 4 of the world's top 10 universities, that has one of the world's 2 biggest financial centres, Europe's biggest technology sector. We have a huge amount going for us, but we have to do that by taking difficult decisions at moments like this, and that's what I'll be doing.
More efficiencies to find. Are we talking austerity level cuts again?
I don't think we're talking about austerity in the way we had it in 2010 when I was also in the cabinet, but we are talking about very difficult decisions in budgets where there is already a great deal of pressure.
So which budgets, which departments are likely to be targeted?
Well, I'm going to ask all departments to find more efficiencies than they were planning to find. Remember, I ran the biggest spending department for many years, so I know just how difficult it is to find those efficiencies, but we're all going to have to play our part across the board. But I do want to reassure people, my priority as we take these decisions, and indeed the government's priority, will be to help families and businesses that are struggling and to demonstrate that as a country, when we go through difficult times, we understand the pressures facing the most vulnerable people.
Are there any departments that you can guarantee will maintain their funding? Will the NHS still get all the funding that was promised when the health and social care levy was announced, for example?
Well, the government's already made that commitment, and we fully, I think I understand more than most, the pressures in the NHS and indeed the social care system. But I'm not going to make any specific commitments about specific departments now, or indeed on the tax side about specific taxes, because we have to look at these things in the round, and we have to make sure as we take these very difficult decisions, we're honest with people about the situation we face, the big international challenges. We're going to take those difficult decisions, but we are going to remember that as a country, we are a decent country, we are a kind country, and we will remember the needs of the most vulnerable people as we take those decisions.
Will Liz Truss, as Prime Minister, ever be able to inspire the confidence of the markets when her central ideology has been such a disaster?
Well, I think her central ideology has been that we've got to get growth into the economy. I think she's the first to accept, in fact, it's the reason I'm sitting here, that the way that she and the former Chancellor went about it didn't work, and that's why we're doing it a different way. But the objective to get growth into the economy so that we can fund the public services like the NHS that we all need so much, that is absolutely central to me and every single one of my Conservative colleagues. And that we are going to go about with redoubled effort because it's so important. It's important in the good times, but it's very important in tough times like the times we face right now.
It's interesting you talk about your Conservative colleagues. I mean, there's still turmoil in the markets, even after her announcements yesterday. Sterling and the bond markets suffered. If the markets don't bring her down, isn't there a high chance that Tory MPs will?
Well, what the country wants now is stability. As you mentioned in your introduction, I didn't vote for Liz Truss, but I'm supporting her because I agree with her fundamental plans for this country, which is to get us back growing so we can afford all the things that we really want to be successful, but also to be a compassionate society, to have really good public services. And I think that's what the country wants. They want a Conservative Party that is united behind our leader and is trying to do the very best thing for the country. And I think actions speak louder than words. That's what we're going to do, heads down, over the next few weeks and months.
OK, Jeremy Hunt, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, on your first full day in the new job, thanks very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
So, plenty to pick over there with our political correspondent, Rob Powell, who's been listening in there in our Westminster studio too. So, Rob, what do we learn from the new Chancellor of the direction of travel with him in the job?
I think that was something of a cold, hard reality check from the new Chancellor there, Anna. Jeremy Hunt making quite clear that his primary purpose in the Treasury right now is to restore economic credibility to the UK, restore economic stability as well. He said that essentially his job now was to show how the government can pay for its tax and spending plans. And he made no bones about the fact that this would be difficult, that there would be some very tough decisions. He said that departments would have to find efficiency savings. Essentially, public spending would not rise as expected and that departments would have to cut back their budgets. You pressed him on whether that would mean the NHS got all their money. He said that was already a commitment that was made but didn't make any specific commitments. That raises so many issues around whether the NHS does get the money it was expecting, around whether the Ministry of Defence gets the increased funding that it was promised by Liz Truss during the leadership campaign. And following on from that, there are the political consequences of how do the various secretaries of state react to the fact that they are being told to trim their budgets now. Also, on the issue of tax as well, we clearly know that corporation tax will now be going up. Jeremy Hunt, I thought, hinted that potentially there could be more measures to come on tax when he said that some taxes won't be cut as quickly as some may want. Does that mean further U-turns on things like the cut to the basic rate of income tax coming down to 19 pence in April next year? He also said that some taxes would rise, clearly a reference to corporation tax there as well. But I think that was quite a sobering analysis of the position we are in and quite a sobering judgment, if you like, appraisal of the impact of the last few weeks and of the job that Jeremy Hunt now has ahead of him.
And of course, our viewers will be watching closely, but so too will Tory MPs and the markets.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, it's probably too early to say with certainty, but I think there will be a degree of reassurance that is given by that interview, because what was emphasised more than anything, it was clearly the message that Jeremy Hunt went out there to put out there was about restoring stability and credibility, and once again saying that the UK should be a country that essentially shows how it is going to pay for its spending and for its tax cuts. He admitted that there were mistakes that had been made over the last few weeks. He said that it was a mistake to fly blind in the mini-budget. That's a reference to not having the OBR forecast there, not having that independent scrutiny of the plans that unsettled the markets and went on to unsettle so many MPs. He said it was a mistake to go for the 45 pence cut as well. So admitting really that key planks of the Truss agenda for the last few weeks, key planks of the government that he has just joined, were not in the right place over the last few weeks, and essentially saying his job in the Treasury now is to try and put out some of those fires that had been started by his cabinet colleagues and by his predecessor a few weeks ago, and try and restore some semblance of credibility and stability to the UK economy. So sobering, I think, is the word I'd use about that interview, but also probably humbling, given that he is essentially, Jeremy Hunt has essentially said his job now is to repair some of the damage done in the last month.
Yeah, he kept talking about stability, didn't he? I'm sure that's something that he will continue to talk about over the next few days. Fascinating to see what the reaction will be. But, Rob, thanks very much indeed for that very quick take on our interview with the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt.